Hello everyone, this time I'm not going to show and play another game between myself and the computer. No, this time I'm going to show and hopefully be able to explain a little bit about a game between two computers. Let's see if it can be done by a mere human that has not so deep understanding of the game yet to actually try and analyze a game between two computers. So let's start doing so. White is played by the engine Critter 1.6 and black is played by Stockfish. It's a intermediate version from May 13th. You can always download the newest version there. It's not a stable release, so it's a beta version of for the next release. So White starts by playing his knight, slightly unusual opening. Black plays Sicilian against that. I guess, I don't know if it's still called Sicilian if White hasn't started with e4, but why shouldn't Black play this line anyways? Makes a lot of sense still. Now White plays e4, so it basically now looks like the Sicilian after two moves of White, and Black does the same. So in this position the idea for Black is to force an exchange of pawns. Usually he wants to exchange his c-file pawn for White's d-file pawn, so he can keep both his d and e-file pawns. But of course this can only happen if White actually tries to challenge this pawn, which hasn't happened yet. So let's go further. White plays his other knight, usual development move. Let's see if Black starts to develop now as well. Yeah, he attacks this pawn, but it's not a real attack since it is defended by a piece, and in this case it's not really an attack. And now it happens what I had expected. The d-file pawn is pushed for White, and so Black can now exchange. Let's see if he does. Yes, he does. And he's a little bit down in development, and White's pawns are further ahead, but the advantage, as I mentioned before, is that he has kept both his central pawns and killed one of the white ones. Now this move prevents shenanigans from this knight or this bishop coming here. Not very active move, but it's okay, I guess. So White now develops his bishop. Black develops, no, he pushes his king's pawn in preparation for playing the d-file pawn to d5, I guess. Otherwise, also it gives a little room for development of this bishop. Next move here, White protects his pawn with another pawn. I think this is not really a usual move, but probably still a book move. Black actually grabs a lot of space on the b file, as we can see, but he really lags behind in development. We'll see how it turns out. It usually shouldn't be a good idea to play so many pawn moves and not develop the pieces. White almost getting close to finishing development by now playing the queen a little bit ahead. Now only the move of this bishop and then castling, and the development is basically finished for white, while black still has a long way to go of at least 5 more moves to finish development. Now he continues by playing his knight to d7. Also, I don't think this move is very good, because he now leaves this pawn undefended, but since there's nothing that white can immediately do to threaten it, actually, if he was to play, well, yeah, then just his knight would be attacked, and then he would have to move somewhere else, maybe here, and then black can still react. But let's see what happens now. White castles queen side. This is because I don't really see a reason for that, but probably he thinks that the black's position here with these where already a pawn is lost, it's easier to defend here on this side. The downside is that you usually have to spend this extra move with the king to the b file in this case, to protect the a file's pawn a little better. Black brings his bishop to b7. Not the most effective thing in this case, because actually it is, because there are no other options for this bishop to be developed. He doesn't gain a whole lot of attackable space, since the pawn chain of white is opposing this here. But this could also be a preparation move for the d pawn. Now white grabs a little bit of space. Of course he has to be ambitious now here on the right side of the board. Since he is castled here, he can of course start pushing, and since he is more or less finished with development, I think a last step of development would be to connect the rooks, so it means he would have to play this bishop as well, but he actually, at this position, it isn't standing too bad, because it covers more squares than it would if it was moved to any of the other available squares. Black does another non-development move by counter pushing his h pawn, and white continues the ambitious land grab here by he gains a lot of space for his pieces behind this pawn wall here. Black now attacks the white knight, but he has to be careful to protect his pawn. But actually this move still seems pretty good, since there ain't so many good squares for the white knight to go. At least he cannot advance, so he could go here, then he would be on the corner on the side of the board where he doesn't control as many pieces, and also he would be hanging. And the other possibility would be here, the e2 square, which I think will be played so he can swing it over to this side, so it's not too bad of an idea because he can swing it over. But otherwise you don't actually want to go backwards with your pieces. So he actually decided to not do what I suspected him to do, and he went in aggressively to the A file, so he gets a little cover over these squares here. But of course he will have to defend this knight sooner or later, otherwise it could simply be attacked by some more moves. For example, playing the bishop to c6 would not be possible right now because it is covered by this knight. So I think it's okay to have him there since this square is protected. But now he pushes the e pawn, where I originally had expected him to push the d pawn, but the e pawn probably is, at least in this situation, it's the better move, because this now forces this knight away. He now has to go somewhere else. Let's see where he put him. So he chose the more aggressive option and pushed him forward here. Nothing really attacked, but this kinda prevents movement of this bishop. So, and he now, of course, he can now play his bishop here to attack the knight, but let's see if he really does that. No, he continues pushing. Now this pawn is protected by the knight and the bishop, but it is attacked by more pieces than that, so I think if white now takes this, this would actually be pretty bad for black. So I think the main purpose was protecting this pawn over here, which also could have been taken since this knight had to be moved. And white takes. Let's see, black. Now this is an interesting move. I wouldn't have expected it. He protects his pawn again and attacks this knight. Of course, another way to attack this knight is to bring the queen knight right next to it. This is an even better attack because it covers the flight squares here once more and also protects this pawn, so not a bad move. The knight gets protected by this pawn move, quite sensible, but he cannot really think about going away from here. But since it is kind of binding the queen to this not so ideal h5 square, as we can see, the queen is blocked by its own pawn, and on this line it also has not so much activity because it can't go over here. Well, actually, let's see. We now have only 2 defenders for the square, but 3 attackers, so if white doesn't do anything about it, black is going to recapture here. Let's see. And he actually does so with the queen, looking to force a queen exchange. Let's see if white agrees. No, white disagrees. And now the queen has to move once again. She goes back to the A line and continues protecting this pawn. Let's go back a move and okay. I overlooked this. Bishop still protects this pawn, so It is not because it needs to protect this pawn, but of course it's always better to protect with more pieces, since other way, for example, white could play the bishop here and attack this pawn twice, but on the other hand he certainly wants to keep this line open, so he doesn't play it now. Quite interesting move. I actually it's a little hard to understand from a human's perspective, because the in order to gain activity, playing here to h2 would have been a lot better. He then could have played here to double, but this obviously isn't his intention. I think he plans to play the F file, so he then also will have protection for this bishop here. Now black retreats his queen to c7. Probably in order to give some more backup for this pawn, since we expect that white plays the f pawn. But actually he can't do this as long as this knight is standing here. So I really have to question this move to h3. We will probably soon see what the purpose of this was. Let's not question the grandmaster-like chess engines here. Now white plays the bishop out and puts on pressure on this diagonal here. Actually the king safety of black is quite not really good. There's already two intruders. This means two pieces are attacking squares next to the king. You usually don't want that to happen, but his opportunity to castle shall still be there. For example, he could now develop his bishop. Finally, let's see if he does. Actually not, he decides to kick the knight on the f5 square. Where could he probably go? Here he can't go. Yeah, I think he has to retreat back into its own territory. Oh, this wasn't really expected. I would have expected him playing to g3. This move, he basically gains a pawn, but he's bound to lose the knight. Now let's see if I think a capture with the f8 bishop to h6 is very good now for black. So the bishop is developed, but on the other hand, castling now is much less attractive with the knight here. But now that I see this knight also is protected by this bishop here, but it is attacked twice, so it's still positive for black. But he can't castle to the king side, I think it is, anymore. Let's see what happens. He takes. Now. Okay, I understand now. I didn't really see this. But in this case, the pushed pawns give him the opportunity to fork this knight and this bishop. So he will lose one of those. I suppose suppose he will decide for the... well, let's not guess, let's just have a look. Instead of saving one of them, which would be a fruitless endeavor since the other one would be taken anyways, he gives white the opportunity to decide which one to take, and instead plays a more active move himself and puts some more pressure on this knight, threatening to force to double here. But I think that white could probably be okay with something like that to happen. But when there are better moves, why not? Now, actually, this bishop would be overloaded hadn't he pushed with a knight now, but in this case he can now concentrate his protection on this square here. But when I look at it, I still feel that black now can simply take, and if, well, this has to be looked at a little bit more deeply. Let's see. Black takes, white retakes, black takes with the queen. Now this pawn wouldn't be defended anymore and white could give check. Let's see if this happened. No, it hasn't. Black first played his rook to the d file so that he gets a little bit more pressure and probably gets allowed to develop his rook should white take on this black knight, which he does. He takes with the rook as expected. Now this tension here is resolved. Black of course could only delay it, the inevitable. Now black obviously he can't retake because it is still protected. Now he takes the rook, forcing the queen to take, I think. Yes, she does. And I think black is in quite some trouble here with this advanced pawn. Of course he can't take it right now, so troubles probably will be increasing, and he is down a pawn. Black attacking the white bishop here. The white bishop now could take and create. Yes, he does so. So this move by black, I don't really understand why he did this. It just caused himself to get a very locked up b file here and no pawns on the other file, so he doubled his pawns himself. And things like that normally only happen under harsh Zugzwang. So white can now thrive this pawn knight away. I think putting it to the g file would be the best, so there would be more pressure on the pawn on the h file, but white of course could then attack it once more with the queen, but I think then black could force queen's exchange, so this wouldn't be too bad for white. But it's black's turn, and he decided to play his knight over here. The more forward position, not really challenging this pawn over here. And now we can still say that this move here actually didn't have any real purpose. As we can remember, at some point of the game the white played rook to h3 and now he played it to h2, whereas I said he should play it to h2 in the first place. Now this was a wasted move for white, but he still seems fine. He still is better despite this wasted move. Now black finally castled very late in the game. This was the 27th move already. Now he doubles here. It's not actually doubling, this is when you double the rooks, but since one of them isn't a rook, this is probably not what this is to be called. Now the bishop can create another blocked pawn, but he doesn't. He finally protects this A pawn. Black blocks off here with a king, preventing that the pawn moves any further. White now directly comes to the 7th rank, very dangerous, especially when it attacks the hanging queen. Black has to respond by moving the queen. He also attacks this pawn, but it is protected, of course. Now the bishop comes into play and threatens this poor little rook. There is not too much where he can go. Now doubling on this, but in order to create a more level attack there would be another piece required, because the protection of queen and king obviously is enough against the attack of the queen and the rook. But now white simply takes the one of the two pawns here. They couldn't protect each other since they were doubled, and 2 pawns down now for black. It's not looking very good. Don't really see the main purpose of this move. Maybe just a slight improvement to the position. And no, of course it protects this f pawn, which was unprotected before. White seems to be looking to exchange the rooks here. Black now finally takes this h pawn. Rooks are exchanged. Queen comes here, attacking this pawn on the e-file. White protects it, but now this pawn is unprotected. Let's see. Now white attacks it again, and black can't defend both of these. Maybe he can move it forward, but he doesn't. In the case of moving forward, he would have had the line protecting here, and he would also have challenged here, but then of course white would simply have taken here, and well, don't really see the disadvantage, so I think that this would certainly have been better for black.